Ready?
Yeah.
Hi, welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina. I'm the host here. My guest today is Michele Costa, and we have been trying to get this interview ever since I met you at H&H. So I'm so glad it's finally working.
I'm so glad that we were finally get our schedules lined up, and I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Michele. Well, you are both a knitter, a crocheter, and you dabble in Tunisian crochet, I've heard. How do you see yourself? Like, do you see yourself as predominantly in one of those things? Like, what was the first thing?
Yeah. So I have this joke, and I tell people that I think I was born with a 5mm crochet hook in my hand, because as far back as I can remember, I crochet. I loved it. When I was a kid, I would just make chains because that's what I could do. And I would use those chains to do like drawings or architecture pictures on the floor, because all I really know how to do is make these long chains. And so crochet will always be my first love for that reason. It's my joy. It's also my job. I knit and I design. So I design and I crochet, and I knit and design and knit and as well. I love knitting. I'm knitting right now, in fact. I love knitting, but my passion will always be crochet. I started Tunisian crochet in about 2014, when I was given a Tunisian crochet hook, and I was like, oh, well, what's this about? And so I started learning some Tunisian crochet, and I really love that. I don't design in Tunisian, I just do it. I do it for me. It's the one medium that's all mine. It's just something that I really enjoy. Yeah, but I think that the real thing is fiber. I think I'm just a fiber arts enthusiast at heart.
Right. Well, when you're thinking about your like earlier years when you were crocheting, was there like what was your approach to crochet? Was it something practical, or was it more like just art, right? Like without the goal for what it's going to become?
I love this question. So I was actually talking last night with an old friend of mine who was with me when I started my business side journey. And crochet actually was just, I used to work in television production and event production, and crochet was my solace. Crochet was my, it's been a crazy day. I've just got this yarn and hook, and I can meditate and not think about all of that. And I have this rhythmic action. So I have movement, and it became something that was really exciting for me to do away from the chaos of every day. And it never, at that time, never really occurred to me that it would lead to this whole career of crochet and fiber arts. But so I used to work on set, on location, and on tour, and I would crochet in my hotel room, and I would crochet on tour buses, and I would crochet in really anywhere. And I would give all of my crew and my team beanies that I would make. And that is how it all began. And so for me, it just started as a real mental health aid, a real emotional health aid, a real life management tool.
When I'm thinking about like my personal knitting preferences, if I need something very simple, I notice that like it's relaxing for me, it's not stressful for me, but my mind travels in 70 different directions. If I need something very complicated, like we're talking like the lace that both sides you cannot take, like your eyes off the chart, people getting stressed by that. For me, that's the time when I meditate. Like that's the time when I can't think about anything else. It's one stitch at the time. It's stopping often, admiring your knitting, finding those mistakes early, like really sort of meaningful process, right? Like when you forget about all the other worries in the world. How do you approach it? Like, do you?
Very similar. I have it's very similar for me. I love a detailed pattern. I love something like when I'm designing, one of my niches that I design for is beginner friendly patterns. and especially beginners into garments, because I know that garments can be overwhelming and can be scary. And so I take the approach that I have when I like to make, and I use that in my designs. And so I use maybe simple stitches with a more detailed construction, or a more detailed stitch with a simple construction, so that the entirety of the project isn't overwhelming for people who are making what I design. But what's funny is that for myself, when I'm making, I'm the same as you. I love the rhythm. I'm just doing a quick stockinette right now, but I love a good pattern where I have to pay attention to nothing but the pattern. And as a designer, what's most exciting for me is that I get to bring the elements of what I love into my designs for my users and people who are my customers. And that's pretty exciting.
Well, let's talk about, how did you become a designer? Like, when did you first realize that you are a designer?
So it's kind of a funny story. I bought a really poorly written pattern to make a bag. And I really wanted to make this bag as a gift. And about 2/3 of the way through, I realized I had a really ugly hat, not a really cute bag. And I was like, I could design better than this. I can design a bag that I want to make. Also, I can design a cuter hat than this. So I started to play around with stitches and math on my own to see what I could make from my own ideas. I'm incredibly inspired by architecture. I have been my whole life. I think that architecture is one of the most magnificent things in the world. And I love looking at old engineering diagrams, and I love looking at old blueprints. And it's really exciting for me to see someone who is able to see a blank space and then create this masterpiece of a building that's both beautiful and functional. And so that's the approach I took to my design when I started designing. I took all of that architecture inspiration from things that I had seen from traveling through production, and I started incorporating it into my design. And so if anyone who knows my work knows that my designs are all named for places and buildings and things that have inspired me from locations I've been to and traveled. And so I think that's been a pretty consistent theme for me in all of my designs. And that's one of the reasons why I pay as much attention to construction as I do to the stitch work, because I see it as that architectural blueprint. I get more excited a little bit sometimes about the schematics that I'm making than about the stitches that I put into it.
Well, let me ask you a difficult question, and the one that like a lot of designers that I talk to struggle with. What in your mind constitutes the original design? Like, there's so many stitch dictionaries, there is so much material out there, like things have been done in every way and every possible variation. Like, how do you proudly put your name on what you call your design?
I have two simple rules that I follow. I really do, because the truth is that math is math. And there's so many stitches, and there's so many calculations that you can combine stitches together. And there are frameworks, and there are some traditional design protocols that we should all be following for best practices. And so for me, the way that I'm willing to put my name on design is really twofold. The first is, did I originate this idea? Meaning, did I sit down and say, I want to design my own knit beanie? There's 5 million knit beanies in the world. Did I want to sit down and design one that I enjoy making, that I can share? If that answer is yes, then it's my design. And then when I have the answer that it's my idea to design this, then I say, okay, I can refer to a stitch dictionary. What patterns, what stitch do I want to incorporate in my pattern? Or what kind of method do I want to incorporate? Do I want it to be flat or in the round? Do I want it to be, what kind of cast on method? And so I can incorporate all different methodologies and all different techniques. And once I'm assembling those pieces, yes, there's a chance that it will look like every other knit beanie you've seen, but the process and the creation and the design, it's mine.
Right.
And so that's when I'm comfortable putting my name on it. And I believe in inspiration. I believe in math is math. I have, I'll tell you a funny story, that another designer and I designed the exact same shrug once, sweater. It's a sweater. We actually designed the exact same thing once. And she had her release date scheduled for 6 weeks before mine. And I had kind of stolen from myself a little bit, because what I had done was I had taken a design that I had released 2 years ago and reimagined it in an entirely new way so that it was a new design. But it wasn't a modification or an update. I'd kind of just completely reimagined all of it. And I just sent this designer a note and I said, oh my gosh, I think we just designed the same thing. And then we just had a lovely chat about it and how exciting it is that we can all be similarly inspired, and how that's both of our favorite stitch combination to use. And so it was bound to happen. Do we want to link it to each other? And so it was just a really encouraging conversation for me, when you know that you can, that this was my design and I'm sure that was her design. And so it was a really good experience of, hey, this is so crazy. We pretty much designed the same sweater. And that's just all it is. It's knowing where you are originating your ideas and working in a community around that.
I actually heard very similar story from Suzanne Bryan, who used to be on the board of like looking at the work of people who were in the Knitting Guild Association, sending their work. And she was like part of the committee that was checking that work. And they received 2 identical sweaters from 2 people from like different parts of the world, because the assignment was, to design a raglan sweater with cables and that color and that way. And they got like same exact sweaters.
And that's what it is. That once they set the parameters, right? So they said it has to be a raglan, it has to have cables. So once you start putting parameters in, you're limiting the creativity. And so you're going to end up with very similar things. And similarly, even if you have no limit on that, you can absolutely find times where people who have all the limitless, but if you gravitate towards a certain stitch, that's something that you're going to use a lot. It's really funny because I will actually just tell you, I have a company, and I know we're going to talk about it, Gosadi. We have this thing called the Grapevine, which is our blog for Gosadi. And it's where we talk about this. We just did a post about this last week, this very topic of inspiration and creativity and design authenticity, and how important it is to know where your design comes from. And I'm really excited. Like, that's the kind of post we're putting out on the Grapevine, because we want designers to feel encouraged and empowered, and know that if your design is your design, then that's all that matters.
Right. Well, let's talk about how you found yourself going from the movie industry into this career.
It's so crazy. I wasn't in movies. I will just give you a slight gentle correction. I was in television production and events. I didn't make movies. I hung around a couple of movie sets once or twice. They're quite a different beast. But television production is its own animal. It was in about 2008. I had heard about Etsy, and they had just launched, and I quickly became a customer. I was like, ooh, handmade goods, handmade people, handmade creativity, buying. And so I became a customer. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I would make hats for my production crew and on location. And my late husband, in about 2010, was like, there's a lot of hats in this house. And so he said, that site you're always buying stuff on, why don't you sell them? And I was like, who is going to buy stuff that I make? And I did it. I November of 2010, I clicked those 4 magic words: open an Etsy shop. And it was like magic happening, right? I had no idea what I was getting into. I had no idea about anything. I was just like, okay, I'm going to sell stuff I make. And within 2 days, I had sales. And within a week, I had sold out of the hats that I had listed. And thus began my first fiber business. The journey came from there, and it was really, really exciting. I was just all in. And so I just kept putting up more products, learning about Etsy and SEO. And we had forums back then, and it was a little bit of a different community. And that's how I got started. And one day someone asked me how to make the hat that I was making, which was, you know, from my own pattern.
Right.
And I didn't really know how to write a pattern at the time, but I knew what I was doing. So I started writing out tutorials, which I wouldn't call them patterns. They weren't tech edited. They didn't have gauge half the time. I was new at it. So I just kind of created a tutorial situation for people to make what I had made. And eventually those turned into patterns. I started to learn more about design. I started to learn more about best practices, stitch work, gauge, all the important things a designer should know about. And so I opened a second Etsy shop to sell my patterns.
Right.
And I had a blog at the time that was just for my patterns promotion. And that was how I started. It just started very organically.
Well, we talked before we started this interview a little bit about what it is to be an influencer, and you and I both dislike that word.
Yeah, I really don't love that word very much. I used to say if I could influence, I mean, he's passed now, but if I could influence my husband to take out the trash, you can call me an influencer. But until that happens, I don't know that that's a good word for it.
Well, how do you see yourself changing over the years? Like, you started with those Etsy shops, you started with publishing some designs, and now it's like completely different animal, as you said. Tell me the
Yeah.
progression. How did that happen?
So I think of myself as honestly a community builder and a maker at heart. Those are my passions. That's my purpose. I walk in that purpose. That is what I do. I'm a maker. Sometimes I'm making content. I'm a content creator. Sometimes I'm a designer. Sometimes I'm talking about things I've made. I'm a blogger. Sometimes I'm doing photos of things that I've made. So I think all of that is a creator and a maker. And I think that's the heart of what I am. And my purpose is I'm a community builder. And it's taking all of those lessons that I've learned and sharing them that has formed my community of creators. And I'm very careful about when I do things and when I think about new projects I'm going to embark on, I always think about, is this good for my community? Is this something I should share with them? Does this have an impact for the other members of my community? Like, what is this for my community? What can this do for people in my community? So it's like a place of service. So I think that in talking about the evolution of my fiber businesses, that's the thing I would say has stood out, is that I have systematically leaned into that purpose of community.
Right. Let's talk about Gosadi. So you mentioned Gosadi.
My favorite thing to talk about.
What is Gosadi?
So Gosadi is a really exciting new platform that I have been working on for about 1.5 years now. I first had the idea 7 years ago. And about 1.5 years ago, my friend and collaborator, Hilary, who owns Nina Chicago Yarn Shop, she and I decided it's time to do this. And so what Gosadi is it's a online, it's a platform, not an app. And it is an e-commerce management tool for pattern designers and creators in the knitting and crochet space. It will eventually become available for people who sew, people who do woodworking, and any craft that needs a pattern. Those people who create the patterns, designers, will be able to use Gosadi. But we are starting in knitting and crochet. And what it really is it's a way to manage your e-commerce. And so, for example, right now, I sell my patterns on Ravelry, Etsy. My blog is Squarespace. My e-com direct and my social is Shopify. And I have Lovecrafts. So that's 5 places that I sell. Each one of those, if I'm selling you a pattern, I have to go, or if I have a new pattern that I've designed, each one of those, I have to go to each one natively and upload all of my information, create a product listing, create all of the SEO driven traffic points, put in all of the data about my product. It takes on average between 30 to 45 minutes sometimes for harder sites like Etsy, where you have to do all of the content creation because they don't have the fields like Ravelry does, it could take up to 90 minutes per pattern. So if you, let's just say average an hour, I've just spent 5 hours putting a pattern online for sale, a single pattern. That's a lot of labor. So I came up with Gosadi as a way to have a single management point to create my online listings. And through API and integration, it connects to all of my selling channels. So for lack of a better word, it's a hub. It's the hub for my pattern and e-com management. And our dream is that it becomes the hub for the fiber arts industry community to come together and both manage their e-com, but also work together and find new collaborations.
How was that received by the crafting community?
Well, it's just getting started. So I will tell you that I have some feedback. So what's really exciting is that we've been working side by side with Ravelry, and that is unprecedented. And we are the first platform to launch with full Ravelry integration. And what that means is we have a two-way API relationship with Ravelry on the tech side. And so users can use Gosadi and truly manage their pattern library and their store on Ravelry as on a much more streamlined process.
Right.
We have about 20 what we call alpha users, who are our initial users. One of the things that was really important to me, I mentioned it before, and Irene, I think just if you met me, you know me a little bit, community is important. And so one of the things I'm incredibly proud about with Gosadi is that we're building it with community in mind, right? So community is at the heart of what we're doing. So we have 20 super users, alpha users, who are testing every idea I have, testing every feature, telling us what they would like to see, telling us their pain points. And so far, they love it. I mean, the feedback has been actually mind-blowingly good. And we just launched beta this month, actually last month. And I'm super excited because now we can open it up to more users who can get a free trial for 6 months and test the waters and see how it works. And the feedback so far has been pretty good. We're really excited about it.
I saw the fact that you're offering free trial to everyone. Like, why would you do that, right? Tell me.
So it was a hard decision. And I will tell you that my co-founder, Hilary, who she did not love that decision. So I will just throw myself under the bus for a minute. But, it was a hard decision, but what we're doing is new. I know that it hasn't been done before. And we're in a community that has really been, people have tried to do tech or create new platforms, but they weren't in the community and they weren't really part of what we need. So I felt it was important to earn the community's trust by giving the users an opportunity to try it out. I believe so wholeheartedly in this product that is going to become an integral and valuable tool in the management of pattern designers' e-commerce, that I think that a free trial is a way for me to say, hey, I want to earn your trust. I want you to try it out. Tell me what works. Tell me what doesn't. I want to earn your support. Let me show you what we're building for you, and let's work together.
Right. No, it makes all the sense. It's just very generous offer, I feel like.
It is. And one of the beauties of it, I appreciate that, because it is financially a risk, right? To give away so much for free, but we're not giving it away for free. The truth is that our beta users get monthly surveys, and it's a requirement to be a beta user. You just take time once a month, you fill out this survey, and you're not giving us private data. You're telling us about your experience using Gosadi as a beta user, and you're telling us about other pain points in the industry.
Right.
What would you like to see us build? What would you love to see Gosadi do for you? What's a pain point in your e-commerce that we can help you with? And so it is free in terms of a financial investment, but there is a time investment, and these surveys are a valuable opportunity for us to connect with our community and hear what everyone wants, and then build for them.
Well,
it's really exciting.
talking about community building, you've had Stitch and Hustle, which is your blog, for a while. What made you decide to do a blog? Because that's also like talking about time investment, like that takes a lot of time to write
A
those.
lot of time. Yeah. But it's funny because it's the same thing. Like when you see what inspired you to have your channel, it's because you want to build a community that shares your passion and that you can share your passion with them. Right. And so not only are they welcomed in to share their passion with you, but you've created a space where you get to share the things that you're excited about with the and that passion for it and connect. And so the blog is kind of the same thing for me, really. It's my hub of community and creativity building. And I originally started it as a crochet promotion blog. My first iteration of my blog was just strictly to promote my crochet patterns. In 2013, I think it was 2013, might have been 2014, I was invited by Etsy to speak at an event about community building. And because my Etsy shop was doing so well, and I had started to really build a community. And when I spoke at that event, I was really impacted by how many other designers and creators felt like we were in this silo. And so I shifted my blog from a Crochet by Michele blog that was just about me and my crochet to a community blog, Stitch and Hustle, which is because that's what I did, right? I stitched and I hustled. I was still working shoots. And so I shifted the focus to a place where I could share my ideas about how to do better photography. I could share things that I learned about how to set up your own website. I could share things I learned about how to do better SEO, how to find the right small business accountant. When do you need an accountant? When do you need to start charging different kinds and levels of sales tax, digital products versus physical products? So there was an opportunity for me to feed into that community. And so Stitch and Hustle became that. And it's still, I give out free patterns, 2 a month, go post it up on the blog, 2 free patterns a month. And it's an opportunity for me to invest in my community of makers, is really what it is.
It's funny to me, it's ironic to me, because like when you talk about Stitch and Hustle, right? Like when I'm thinking about hustling, I'm thinking of somebody like cold-blooded shark that like hustles, right? And here you are giving free patterns, free tryouts on the, on Gosadi. You give back a lot.
Thank you. I've received a lot. I have been welcomed and blessed in this community. And so it's really my purpose to I know what my purpose is. And a friend of mine and I were talking about it last night, the difference of just doing what you do and the difference of walking in your purpose. And I know that when I'm doing things that have to do with community building, that's part of my benefit. And because there's just joy in it.
Right.
There's just joy. And seeing someone else succeed and knowing that maybe I did something that helped them is really, really awesome. Seeing someone else make a garment for the first time. I have so many crocheters who have sent me messages that the first garment they made was one of my patterns because they felt like it was approachable. It didn't feel overwhelming. I broke down the construction for them. I broke it down with using simple stitches, but detailed construction, or vice versa. And that's exciting for me as a designer and a community member.
Well, you told me about this event that not even an event that you're organizing, but like something for the local yarn stores and other communities of knitters and crocheters to organize, that you provide shawl patterns for knitters crochet along. Tell me a little bit more about that.
It's actually one of my favorite things that we do at Stitch and Hustle on my blog. One of the things that, because I design in both knit and crochet, I have started, and this is about 3 or 4 years ago, I'd have to check, I think 4 years ago. It's 2023 and it started in 2019. So 4 years ago, I started designing shawls in knit version and crochet version. And because I noticed a gap in my community and in the market that I was working with, that there were make-along, there were knit-alongs and there were crochet-alongs. There was a cal or a cal. And there were make-alongs where people made different things. But I thought it would be really cool for people to make the same thing in their craft medium.
Right.
So I started my own version of that by creating a pattern set for shawls. And they are in knit and crochet. They look not identical, but pretty dang close. And they celebrate the medium that they are in. So there's a fun thing about knitting for knitters. There's a fun thing about crochet for crocheters. And I provide those patterns free to yarn shops who want to use them for their make-alongs. And I know, because my business partner, Gosadi, owns an LYS, that one of the pain points for local yarn shops is ways to include both crafts in a single event. Because for yarn shops, it's very cost effective if they can invite everyone and get the whole maker community involved, and that allows them to have a bigger reach. And so I provide those for free to any local yarn shop that wants to host a make-along. I provide the duality, and I have them up on Stitch and Hustle blog. There's a section called Shawalongs. And to me, it's just another way to give back, right? Like, I've gotten so much from this community. Local yarn shops are the heart. I mean, how many of us just, learned to stitch or went into that local yarn shop and got help on a pattern we couldn't figure out, or we got into a point where something didn't look right and we had to go in and somebody had to help us, or they had a local dyer that we had never discovered. And so I feel like local yarn shops are really special. And so I wanted to create this opportunity to give back and help them to grow their communities, which also grows my community. So I do this knit and crochet version of Shawalongs, and it's really, really exciting. And I will tell you, I actually just published a new set on my blog about a week ago, and I used Gosadi to do it, which was like double exciting, because now I'm doing, like, it's the truly meta merge of all of the evolution of my career and my businesses. And so getting to use Gosadi, which I built with my team, to publish my patterns that I designed from an idea in my brain was quite actually one of the highlights of my life. And now I see people making those shawls. And so it's really exciting. It's just kind of like brought it all together.
If you guys know any store owners, local store owners, or if you are a local store owner, I'm going to put the information about that link, that blog, in the description of this video. So check it out, and maybe you want to do it in your own local store. I want to ask you about the event that I'm sort of like, I just learned about and I'm very excited about. It's called Stitch Up. Tell me about it.
Oh, my baby, Stitch Up. So Stitch Up it's Stitch Up Events. And I'll just say it for your audience. The website is stitchupevents.com. It's very easy, Stitch Up Events. And it all started in 2016. I posted on Instagram and I said, does anybody want to come have coffee with me and stitch by the bean? And I was overwhelmed by the amount of people who said where and when. And I quickly realized we weren't going to fit in Pete's coffee. So I needed to put together an event. So I started looking for places, and I started at the Virgin Hotel just about 3 months after that post went up. I put together an event and I decided to call it Stitch Up, because that's what we were doing. We were like, it's a combination of stitching and meeting up. So I called it Stitch Up. And instead of a meetup, we were going to have a Stitch Up. And I launched Stitch Up Chicago. And actually, the woman who I launched Stitch Up Chicago with is Allie of Explorer Knits. We did the first one together when she was local in Chicago. And that's really exciting, because she's gone on to this beautiful career as an indie dyer, and I've gone on to grow these events. So it's kind of always exciting to see people walking in their purpose. It's always really exciting for me. So me and Allie put this event together, and we had a great turnout. And I was like, I think this should be an annual thing. And Allie was like, I think it should too, but I don't want to do it. Like, I want to go dye yarn and do other things. And so this was really fun to do. And I was like, but I think I'm supposed to do it. And so I kept it going and I grew it, and I built a whole events company around that initial concept. It's a day and a half. It's 2 days really. Stitch Up Chicago is the flagship. I've done it also in New York, and we have New Orleans coming up. And we have everything that you could imagine is included in your ticket price. So all you do is buy a ticket and show up. All your meals are included. All of your materials for all of the workshops are included. All of your time with the instructors and hosts is included. All you have to do is show up. And I work really closely with sponsors and vendors and making an event that is accessible with a pretty attainable ticket price, and an event that is fiber filled. It really is. We don't have instructors and classes. We have hosts and workshops. And so what that means, and I'm so excited, Irene, I really hope you come this year, because I think you're going to have
really nice. Yeah.
I think you're going to have the time of your life. I really do. It's really exciting. So we have a couple of hosts. So last year we had London K, Lauren of Mother of Pearl, Natalie of Detroit Knots, and Tamara of Moogly Blog were our hosts. And this year we have really exciting. I haven't announced the event yet, so I can't tell you who, but I can tell you it's really exciting. And the hosts are around to guide your weekend of fiber fun. We do a workshop that is around one of our designs. It's all beginner friendly. And if you have trouble with a stitch, our hosts can help you. If you want to learn a new stitch, our hosts can help you. If you're a knitter and you want to learn crochet, we can help you. If you're a crocheter and you want to learn knit, we can help you. And my favorite thing about Stitch Up is that I have photos, and you can see these on the Stitch Up website. The community is teaching the community. And it's just my favorite part about having a community event. It's really, really awesome. And again, it goes back to, like, I know I'm walking in my purpose, right? I know that giving back and community building is what I'm supposed to do. And I just constantly I'm looking for ways to incorporate that into anything I build and do.
Well, let's talk about the purpose, because you keep coming to that concept. When people start new business, they usually like sit down, they sketch some business plan, and then that plan changes, evolves. Have you ever had a business plan? Do you have a business plan now? Like, how is that?
Oh, yeah. You should ask my team. We've got charts, we've got business plans, we've got meetings, we've got structure. Now you should ask my team. I'm very business oriented, but what drives me is my purpose. I know what I'm supposed to do. And so all of my businesses have a business plan. All of them have evolved from what I thought they were going to be to what they were supposed to be to what they are. And I think that as a business owner, the best thing that I can do is have space and allow for that evolution. And it's really important to, we have actually, I mentioned the grapevine. We have a couple of blog posts that speak to this, because these are my businesses. And like I talked about earlier, like Tunisian crochet is my hobby. And treating a hobby like a business is what was the game changer for me. When it was just a hobby that I could make some money from, it wasn't very good. I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't do very well. I was stressed all the time. I didn't make nearly as much money. I didn't have plans and processes. I didn't have streamlined efficiencies in place. And it's one of the things that led me to start thinking about Gosadi, because I started to shift my thinking from a hobbyist to a small business owner. And the minute I did that, I'm telling you, it was like a light bulb went off and everything changed. And that gave me clarity. And it also allowed me to define what is my purpose. So I have business plans. I mean, I'll just say it. I'm here to make money, right? That's my job. I have a business to make money, but I employ people. I have 20 full-time employees worldwide. 6, 7. I just started my 7th. So 7 in the US, and I have 13, 14, actually 21, I have a team of 14 who are working with me on Gosadi on the code in India. So I have a business plan. Boy, do I ever. I have a business plan. I have a marketing plan. I have strategy sessions, but none of it matters if I'm not walking in who I'm authentically supposed to be.
When you talk about being working for somebody else, right? Like when you had early in your career, you can be stressed. It can be stressful. But
so stressful.
But then at the end of the day, you can come home and forget about it.
Yeah. So I'll share with you when I don't know if I've ever really told this story. When I first had the idea for Gosadi, I was finishing up a television shoot and just shifting. That was going to be my last shoot. And I was going to switch full time to launch my fiber career. I had turned my side hustle into a small business. I had turned my hobby. My progression was my hobby turned into a side hustle turned into a small business. That was my progression. And my small business was starting to need more of my attention. So I had to pick. I had to decide. I got to a point where I had to decide, is my small business going to be back to a side hustle and I will keep working on shoots and TV shows? Or am I ready to take that leap and make my small business a bigger small business that is self-sustaining, that I can, and I'm going to have to do the work. And so I sat down, I did a business plan. And I said, okay, I'm going to do it. And that was right around the time, but I'd still had contracts for 2 more shoots that I had coming. I had the shoot that I was on, and I had already signed a contract for my next gig. So I had a little bit of runway right there.
Right.
And in that shift of mindset is when I realized, okay, this is for real. Like, this is not a game, because I'm going to lose this incredibly lucrative income in about 15 months. And am I ready for that? And is my family, because it was me and my husband, and my income helped our household, right? We're a dual income household. Are we ready for me to go from 6 figures to, God, I hope I have a hat sale today? Like, like, are we really ready for this? And I decided that I couldn't live with, God, I hope I have a hat sale today. I needed a business plan. I needed to treat it like a business, and I needed to set up a budget, and I needed to set up shift my business accounts over and separate everything. And so you have to do that, right? And and this is the part that I've never really shared with anyone, is that I came really close to taking another shoot after my last shoot wrapped. I was so scared to jump off that cliff. I mean, I'm not telling you a lie. I was like, and I remember telling my husband, babe, I don't know. Are you sure this is right? Like, can we really? And he'd look at me and be like, so we eat ramen for a while you figure it out. Like, we've done that before. We've built from nothing. And I think it's having that freedom to just take that risk and say, okay, I'm willing to eat ramen for a month to build this, and then treat it like a business. And that, I didn't take that shoot when my contract ended. I took that leap. There have been lots of failures and bumps along the way. I've lost lots of money on bad decisions, and all of those lessons led me here. And I have a full-time career in fiber arts. That's exciting.
When I met you, and like the sense I'm getting from talking to you, you are so upbeat, you're so happy, you're so easygoing, and like you keep on saying how lucky you were, how lucky you were in this place and lucky you were in that place. Do you think it's luck? Do you think like your success can be blamed on luck, or do you think it's a lot of hard work and a lot of decisions that you lost sleep over at night?
Oh, if you ask my team how many nights I sleep, they'll tell you maybe 2. I'm sleepless half the time, because now I have other people's livelihoods that I'm responsible for. So to be perfectly honest with you, that's even scarier than when it was just me, you know. I think that it is, for me, I can honestly say that it is hard work, first and foremost. It is, you know, there's this Kerry Washington quote, and I'm going to mess it up, so I hope you can find a link to it to give it right to people. There's this, and I believe wholeheartedly that this is why I'm successful, is that you have to pray and do the work. You have to believe in what you're doing and do the work. For me, my faith tells me I pray and do the work. So the Kerry Washington quote, and I'm totally going to mess this up, but you know, you can run after a bus, but you have to pray and run. So for example, if I pray and then I run after the bus and I miss it, I know I've done all I can. That wasn't my bus. That was not for me. But if you catch the bus, you've done all the work, you know that's your bus, you know, wholeheartedly. And so I think that that's the approach I try to take. I do think that some of it has to do with luck, but I think that more of it has to do with how I respond to those opportunities that arise, or whether I go seek them out. I do think that a lot of it is hard work. I work really, really hard. I work about, because I have 3 full businesses, I work about 15 hours a day. But I also go on vacation. I also really love my work, so it's not really work. I have the greatest team on the planet, if you ask me. And I get to create jobs for people in the fiber arts industry. I mean, that's exciting.
Well, if all your prayers were answered and all your dreams were coming true, what are those dreams? Like, what dreams do you have for your business?
That's a loaded, man, I wish I knew that's, okay. So let's tell you my wildest dreams, to quote a Taylor Swift song title. I'll tell you my wildest dreams. In my wildest dreams, Gosadi is a hub that connects designers with opportunity and then gives them the tools to succeed in pursuing those opportunities. So we're doing the work that I did, which is we're creating we're helping the designers find and connect with those opportunities, and then the tools and how to thrive and succeed and get those opportunities to fruition, and a place in the industry where collaboration is first and foremost the key to success. In my wildest dreams, Gosadi is that. On a personal level, I would love to open a nonprofit for foster kids and teach them craft and code. I would like to teach foster kids tools to both thrive in a world of technology and have craft as a creative outlet. So in my wildest dreams, if I was being truly honest, I'm not even sure I've ever said those publicly, tearing up a little bit, but that would be, if all my prayers and dreams and hard work came to fruition, that would be what it is.
Well, one of my dreams is to make it to this Teach Up and see it from
Yes, I hope you come. I really do. You had such a great energy. Meeting you at H&H I remember talking to Samantha, my head of marketing for Gosadi at H&H, like, oh my gosh, I just met this woman. Here's her card. She has the greatest energy. You have to meet her and we have to connect, because I love what you're doing. I love the kind of content you're creating on your channel. So I really hope you come to Stitch Up. I promise you will have a good time. I can guarantee it.
Oh, thanks so much, Michelle, for being my guest today. I'm so glad it worked out for us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad it worked out finally.
And I'm sure we'll collaborate on something in the future because we both have the same vision.
100%. I love working with other people who want to do community projects. So I am certain we will collaborate on something.
Well, I'm going to put all the information about you, about Gosadi, about the blog, about this Teach Up. I'm going to put all of it in the description of this video. And you guys know how to find Michele now. So go give her a follow, check out those events. If you're a designer, check out Gosadi. And thank you so much for watching us. If you enjoyed this channel and this program, consider buying me coffee. I'll put that link in the description as well. Thank you so very much, Michele.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Irina. I loved chatting with you. Thank you.